Hello again and welcome to another episode of the Franchise Everything podcast, where we talk about everything and anything franchising. And today I'm joined by someone pretty special. I'm in a pretty special location. I'm joined by Brad Sugars, and we're in your hometown of Las Vegas, aren't we, Brad?
We are here in Las Vegas, just 5 minutes from where I live at the beautiful Red Rock Casino. So.
It is, and for those who don't know, I looked you up a bit. We haven't met before. I've met plenty of people in franchising, but not you. You're pretty much widely recognised as pretty much the world's #1 business coach. From my research and what I've seen, I see you a lot on LinkedIn, being very active in business advice and everything. How did it all begin? Where did you start to become what you are now?
Well, the where was probably 16 years of age, Rotary Youth Leadership Awards, Brisbane, I think it was District 1963. I won the award, and they sent me away for a week-long training as a 16-year-old boy on how to be successful and how to be a leader.
And this was in Brisbane?
This was, just out of Brisbane somewhere. I forget exactly where. But from that, I developed the yearn to learn, the love of learning, and I think then I started studying Jim Rohn, E. James Rohn, and just kept reading and studying, and the desire for learning helped every business that I was involved in become, I won't say massively successful, but successful enough to the point where people started asking me, how did you do that? And I think in my early, at 20, I believe, people were really asking me to speak about it. And I thought, this is kind of a cool thing. I get to speak and travel the world, and people pay me to do that type thing. I remember being paid to go to Hawaii and speak, and
Bonus.
I was like, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But I've mostly just built companies along the way. The majority of the knowledge comes from being either a partner or shareholder or owner of companies and having to make them successful. So like most of the marketing learning comes from doing marketing. Today I own major shares of 2 marketing agencies because, I wanted to learn it in the best way.
You're living and breathing it all the time.
Well, yeah, most of my life is buying companies and building them. So, and obviously we've used franchising in multiple of those, licensing as well, joint ventures. Pretty much you name the business model, we've used it at some point.
Actually, I know that I saw you, I reckon, in Brisbane, speaking probably 20 years ago. I'm sure of it. I went to a...
I can't be that old, but yes, I can.
I am. So I'm sure I went to an ActionCOACH thing, I think it was about 20 plus years ago. I remember it in somewhere in Brisbane CBD.
Yeah, we used to do a lot of events, and we did a lot of free events. And today the free events that, like we used to do free events, well, today your free event is your YouTube or your podcast or something like that. And, back in those days, I'd do radio interviews and TV interviews. Well, today we do podcast interviews. We do all sorts of different things. It's just a different methodology. YouTube is the #1 screen in the world right now. They are the highest number of hours of view time over any TV group, any movie thing. They just win.
Yeah.
So you want to be on YouTube with great content for people to find you. And once they do, then and even not just that. I was chatting with some guys in construction the other day who their business does mostly through tenders and a lot of government work. And they said, should we even do social media? And I said, you guys need to think of it as social proof media.
Yeah.
When someone looks you up, which everyone does, whether they go to your LinkedIn or your Instagram or whatever methodology, they're going to look you up and they're going to see, have you got customers telling us you're great? Have you got ratings that say you're great? And they don't mind. Like I have a restaurant here. We have a catering and restaurant business. And we get at least 1 or 2 customers a week that come in and say, I just came in because of the way you guys handled the 1-star reviews. Because there's always some crazy person that's going to give you a 1-star review because,
So do you handle it with grace or,
Well, you handle it with grace and humor. Yeah. I think you've got to be at least a little bit funny.
Not the canned, I'm sorry we didn't meet your expectations.
Yeah, no.
You see that? I'll see that on booking.com
You never do, I'm sorry we didn't meet your expectations. It's like, I checked in with the team, and we're really sorry. When you asked us for no cheese, we actually thought that meant no cheese, not that you wanted some cheese or a little cheese or cheese on the side. We just thought you meant actually no cheese. So next time you come in and you tell us no cheese, we'll know that you're not actually like, if you can handle it with a bit of fun, and I think that's part of any business. You've got to handle it with a bit of fun, and if business isn't fun, then there's probably a good chance you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, I've seen that in quite a bit of your stuff, checking out all your stuff you're doing online, because I see you on LinkedIn a lot and everything. You do talk a lot about the importance of having fun in your business.
Well, if it's not fun for you and you're the owner, what do you think it's like for your team? You know, and if it's not fun for your team, what's it like for your customer? And the way the world of business really works is you build the team, or you take care of the team. The way you take care of them is the way they take care of the customer. And then that's proportional to how well the customer takes care of the business. And in return, how the business takes care of you, I guess, is, you know, the cycle continues. So your job as a CEO or an entrepreneur or owner is really to build the people in your organization. They then build up the customer base, and the customers build up the business. So
there was a few steps beyond Rotary to get to where you are right now with your knowledge. So what was the move into business there? So you won your award there, and at 16. When was you moving to your first business?
I got into sales while I was at university. So I studied accounting, got into sales, was selling things like...
You don't strike me as an accountant.
No, well... I'm very happy that no accounting firm hired me out of college to be an accountant.
Made the decision for you.
Let's put it that way. And I met a great mentor, Paul Dunn. I went to work with Paul for a year or a year and a half, and then went out on my own. And luckily, I'm still friends with him today. He was at the we had our 30th birthday for my company, ActionCOACH, in the Philippines, and Paul came along to have a good chat with everyone and enjoy it with us. So yeah.
So you accounting. So when did the ActionCOACH king? Because I think I came across you about 20 years ago in ActionCOACH.
Yeah,
when did that happen?
I was 21 at the time.
Very young then. I thought,
and I was doing people were asking me to speak, and so I thought if they're going to ask me to speak, then I might as well, do some things. I created some training courses and stuff, but most of that was just speaking. And at the end of the speaking, and maybe I'm a little slow at times, but at the end of speaking, people would always ask me, well, can you help us? And I think after the 100th person asked me, can you help us? I was like, maybe I should build a consulting or coaching or something.
Business or something.
And I said, well, I don't have time. I'm over here running this. I'm doing these speaking on the side. If you call me every week, I'll coach you and help you through it type thing.
So it wasn't a grand plan?
No, there's no. I mean, most businesses start by accident.
Yep.
Unfortunately or fortunately, I was being paid quite well to speak and travel around the country and around the world, and I got to do a lot of those sorts of things. And the coaching just sort of happened by accident. But where I ended up enjoying it most was the coaching, because it got the real results with people. Whereas the traveling and speaking got a little bit old pretty dang quick. When you're doing 200 room nights in hotels and 200 flights a year, it doesn't take much to realize, this is not a good business model.
So the keynote's really sexy sort of thing to many people initially.
It's it's a lot of fun initially. You're traveling, how hard is your life? You get paid good money to fly around the world first class and have people, when you get off stage, tell you you're great. Yeah, that's a really hard life. But you also have to have a life, I guess, in some ways. And I think early in business, though, I bought into, how they say there's this like hustle and grind. You got to work hard and you got to do it. Well, I bought into that as a young businessman, thinking, well, I'm the owner. I should be doing the most work. The reality in my mind of what I've seen since then is that what I did and I wore it as a badge of honor. I really did. I was like...
A lot of owners do, I think.
Yeah, look, I bragged about the fact that I'd slept in my office at nights, and I bragged about working 6 and 7 day weeks, and I bragged about, I was like...
No one can work harder than you. Yeah.
That was pretty much it, and no one did work harder than me, and that was my fault. My job as an owner is to create an environment where the people do amazing work, and they build a great business. I build them, they build it.
Yep.
But I had to learn, and now my definition of a business is a commercial, profitable enterprise that works without you. If you have to be there, and then that doesn't happen in a week or a month. That takes years in most cases to build a team and a reputation and a customer base and systems and all the things you got to build. But once you've built it so that it can run without you, you now own an asset. You don't now own a job where you work for a lunatic yourself. You built an asset that is a saleable item. And that's ultimately what, when I was gotta be early 20s, I brought Michael Gerber to Australia to speak. And Gerber said something that didn't make any sense to me at the time. He said, the only reason to start a business is to sell it. And at the time as a kid, I'm like, why would I want to sell it? I love what I do.
Running it.
You know, this is fun. This is great. I've got a full-time gig. I'm doing my thing. But you don't have to sell it, but it has to be saleable. Because if something happens that one day you're like, you know what, I'm done. I'm out. I'm tired.
And it's happening like that, and you've got no plan.
Or something happens to someone in your life and you got to move across the world because, you know, one of your relatives and, you know, whatever it is, but you need to build it as an asset. It's to do all of that work. Like, actually, I'll say this in two different ways. To do all of that work, to build a commercial, profitable enterprise, right, to build a great business and not be rewarded at the end with the capital value of what you've built is awful. See, every business person has an exit.
Yeah.
Every one of you will exit your business.
It just depends how
now, I don't say
successful it is.
sell, I say exit. Because the vast majority never sell their business. They just shut it down in the end.
Walk away.
You know, and if you want to have a planned sale exit, you need to actually learn that stuff. And so I set about learning it and teaching it and learning it and teaching. In the beginning, I taught mostly sales and marketing because that's what I was very good at.
Because you wrote a lot of books as well on around
what do we
those
have?
topics.
18 books now on the subjects of business and investing and wealth.
You still writing?
I'm still writing. I'm writing less and recording more these days. And so even books these days, I just record it and my editor types it for me because as my English teacher told me, I would never be good at writing.
No, 18 books later.
four of them international bestsellers, you know, all of that sort of thing.
Who's counting?
Yeah. Thanks, Mrs. Price.
And if you don't listen to the podcast here, we are in front of an audience here, the urban clean, commercial cleaning audience here in Vegas. So if anyone hears giggles and everything, it's not just background noise. So when did the penny drop then? So you were young, you were about 21, 22, and you were doing a lot of speaking around the world. When did the penny drop? You're saying, like, I'm going to have to start a action coach or a coaching business. And how did you start implementing? What were your first steps?
I started doing coaching and employing people on my team, and I'd employed a whole bunch and taught them things and very quickly learned how to – there's a distinct difference between training your people and training your people so that they're ready to leave you. You can overtrain your people in a lot of cases, meaning you build your salespeople to be great at sales, you build your marketing people to be great at marketing, you build your operations people to be great at operations. You don't build people who are great at all three because if they're great at all three, they can go and become your competitors. Yeah. And so what I worked out was that rather than just teaching my competitors, I would set it up in a franchise model. Now, when I started franchising, there were 2 other white-collar franchises in the world, like ERA, expense reduction analysts, and one of the tax ones here in the US. And people would come to a franchise expo and they'd walk in and go, okay, I can do burgers or I can, and they found us with a white-collar franchise where you'd use your intellectual property, and they were very happy to look at that. And so we used franchising to evolve to now 83 countries, and we've done over $2.5 billion in revenue in our lifetime, and you know we've had a pretty dang good run, and 1,100 franchise partners around the world, and just in the Action Coach business. Yeah.
So I'm interested in how that got it. So you employed a team to get that up and running, and you started in Australia. So you did it in Australia, and what was the mushrooming out from Australia? What was the first market you went into?
We went international. We went to New Zealand.
Oh no,
it was massive.
That doesn't count.
And it counts if you're an Australian and you've opened in New Zealand. It counts. You got to take.
So you suddenly say you're a global business.
No, we moved up into Asia pretty quick. Singapore, Malaysia, the Philippines, Indonesia, and then from there we noticed that the franchise model was working very well. So we opened the US and Canada and Mexico. And then we opened England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, Northern Ireland, and
Then we started moving into real foreign language markets sort of thing. And
what was that adjustment like from a business coach? Is there, from American, you've exposed to a lot of them. It's one thing to sell burgers in different countries, you know, everyone eats, but the business coaching then, what are the differences between countries? Have you noticed?
Well, that's
any
one of
major
the
ones?
reasons we use franchising,
Yep.
because if you have locals, they understand the local market better, and the nuances are delivered by them into that local marketplace. I think that, you know, we sort of, before I was in Action Coach, I was part of a business called Superior Quilt Company and another one, Trophy Dog Food, both of them franchise companies based out of Melbourne in Australia. And with my partners in those businesses, we really understood a lot about building great franchise partnerships. And that's really what a franchise is. It is a partnership. And I explain it to my franchise partners very clearly that, you know, we're in one particular business, it's a 10% royalty. So we're 90-10 partners. You get 90%, I get 10%. And this is what I do for my 10%. This is what you do for your 90%. And that's how we work together and we build an amazing organization. I've seen franchising evolve from, you know, us being one of the earliest white collar to a lot more white collar franchises now.
There's a lot around now.
A lot of licensing and business opportunities and all of those sorts of things. But I think that our evolving into international markets, and today we open 4 new countries a year. So where you might have a system to open your store, we have a system to open a franchise, and above that we have a system to open a new country. So our level of systems to open a new country are as strong as, say, a sandwich place's
open a local location.
system to just system to make their sandwich.
Okay.
You know, if I go back to your previous question when I said, you know, it's not worth doing it to do it and build it to just not get that capital reward. I also don't think it makes sense to build a great business and then only do it in one location. You know, I have a restaurant down the way here that we built, and now that model is correct, we're looking at how many locations across the country do we want that in, and it's a matter of, you know, what I see business as is X times Y, meaning X is the location value. So let's say that restaurant does $3 million a year. How many locations do we want $3 million a year in? Well, we want it in this number of locations, therefore we'll be doing $500 million, and that's the sort of operation that we're looking to build.
You mentioned earlier on Jim Rohn. So he's been a big influence in your career. Do you still go back to his works, and how do you?
Yeah,
how
every
does that
couple of
play in
years
you?
I re-listen to the old Jim Rohn training programs. But Mr. Rohn, I was 16 years of age, Brisbane City Town Hall, and I sat there, and I don't remember exactly how much I paid, but I'm guessing it was around $600. It was a lot
That's a
of
bit of that
money for
time,
me
yeah,
as a
yeah.
kid. A lot of money. I think it was all of it. But in sitting and taking notes, and then I got him to sign my notes at the end, and he'd said 2 things during the event that really struck me as a 16-year-old. And one was, never wish your life were easier, wish that you were better. And that struck me because as a 16-year-old kid, you're always wishing for things, if that makes sense. It's not like I've got to go out and do it. And he said, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And I think I just took it for granted that that's what it is. That's the way the world works. And so I just followed it. But at the end, I asked him to sign my notes. I said, Mr. Rohn, is there anything I can do as a 16-year-old to guarantee my success? He said, son, it's pretty simple. You read a book a week for the rest of your life. And so I started then. I just started reading a book a week. And jokingly, though, Mr. Rohn used to say, no one can do your reading for you. He didn't know about Audible.
The audio, I was going to say,
you know,
they are
these
now.
days, audiobooks on 2 times speed. I can get through at least one a week.
Do you find there's enough retention with that, though?
I'm very auditory, so
Okay.
yes, I get a lot of good retention.
I was talking to
It's
someone
just-
about it the other day who was saying they just don't retain
it's
as
just
much
mad.
in audio.
Well, if you're listening to an audiobook and you need to take notes, then be a note-taking person. If you're not, then have the audiobook playing while you're reading the book. You know, do a double whammy. You have to learn your learning style and your learning modality. But at age 31, I got to open for Mr. Rohn in the Sydney Convention Centre. I think there was about 5,000 of us, and I took my notes to show him in the back room afterwards of, these are my notes from when I was 16, Mr. Rohn, and you signed it here. And he said, please call me Jim. I said, yes, Mr. Rohn. You know, some people earn that right.
Yeah, yeah.
And may he rest in peace. But Mr. Rohn changed a lot of lives out there.
Yeah. So did you see, you tried to model yourself on his approach, or what did you take from as far as what you do?
He taught a lot of great philosophical points about success and how success happens and how you've got to think if you want to be successful and the way you've got to approach life if you want to be successful. And I think that he really helped me want to keep learning. And there's only one key distinct way you can beat the market all the time, and that's just keep learning. The more you learn, the more you earn. It's no more complex than that.
Yeah. So do you, in your learning with that, and for other business owners that are listening to this or watching this, what do you focus on? So you're always reading business nonfiction, or do you focus on marketing, or how do you balance it? Or you just, you go to the bookshop and just find what's
So my formula for success is pretty simple. It's dream, goal, learn, plan, act. So you got to have a big dream. If there's no need for you, if you don't have big dreams, there's no need to do your best.
Yep.
Right? You don't have to do massive things. I just had lunch with a couple of young men, and their business is doing about 10 million now. They want it to do 30 million, and they're on track to do that. And they were talking about, well, how could you help us, Brad? And I'm like, you don't need help. If you want to go to 3 billion, then I can help you. But from 10 to 30 million, I can't really help you.
So they're already on the track they're on.
You're on track. You're going to do that. And that's where massive vision of a business or massive dreams in your life determine the need for massive learning or massive help type thing. Well, your dreams have to become goals, okay? Meaning anything inside 5 years is a goal sort of thing. But the problem for most people is the moment they set a goal, they go, well, how do I do that? How do I do that? How do I do that? By definition, the fact that you've set it as a goal means that you don't know how to do it. If you did know how to do it, it wouldn't be a goal because you'd be doing it.
Do it, yeah.
So Professor Alan Pease says it best. He says, you know, how is the enemy of most goals? You know, it's when you go to how do I do that, you lose the fact that by setting the goal, you should actually be asking, what do I need to learn in order to plan it, in order to do it? Because it's, and people are kind of tough on themselves. They don't give themselves time to learn. The learning takes time. It takes energy. When you set a goal and you don't achieve it in the first year, it's not because you set the goal wrong or didn't. It's most probably because you didn't do any learning. You know, I was chatting with a group the other day about marketing, and there was a young gentleman who stood up and he talked about his marketing goal, getting 30 new customers in his childcare business. And I said, fantastic. I said, well, when you set the goal of 30 new customers for your childcare business, how hard did you go looking for them? And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, do you have kids? He said, yeah, I have one young son. I said, okay, imagine you're at the fair and your son goes missing. How hard are you going to look for your son? You're going to look till you find him, yes or no?
You'll be relentless,
he says,
wouldn't you?
yeah, I'm going to look till I find him. Are you going to get everyone's help? Are you going to describe it perfectly? Like, will you know exactly what it is? Will you describe to everyone? Will you show photos? Will you go and get on the loudspeaker? Will you do everything possible to find him? He said, yes. I said, great. That's a 10 out of 10 level of going and searching for those new customers. Getting those 30 for your business, what level of energy, effort, clarity, use of strategies, use of other people did you do? And he said, probably about a 1 out of 10. I said, there you go.
So it was very reachable.
You know, it's like if you don't commit, and that's one of the reasons for dreams. Dreams make you commit. You know, goals make you commit. And then the learning allows you to build the plan. The learning is what brings the plan. And that's why it's great that the Urban Clean team are here, because they're going to learn a lot, which allows you to increase your dreams and your goals. Because the moment you learn how to do something, it's like, oh, it's no longer a goal. It's now a to-do list.
Yep.
You know, all I got to do is do the work and I'll get there type thing. So
how do you... So you've got, I don't know how many companies you're involved in now that you're directly involved in, but I know
11.
It's 11. It's a lot. So how do you... it's two-part question here, allocate time to it and the goals for those. How do you juggle all of that, and also with family, obviously, as well, because you've got a lifestyle to live as well?
I don't juggle it. I harmonize it. People keep thinking, a lot of people use the word balance, and I don't see successful people living in balance, Kobe Bryant, arguably top 3 basketball players of all time. I doubt there was much balance in his life. When he's playing basketball, he's playing basketball. There's nothing else in his world, if that makes sense. You know, for me, when I go to work, I go to work. When I come home, I go home. So the way I allocate time in my companies is, are they a 1 hour a month, a 1 hour a week, or a 1 hour every 2 week company? So my partners or CEOs run the companies. I'm the chairman. That's my job, to be there as their coach, mentor, chairman, and build the CEOs. If I build the CEOs, they build the business. So I'm there to be their sounding board. Now, in the beginning, that can be a weekly thing, and it might take a year or two for me to get to every 2 weeks with them. And then it might take another year to get to every week with them, where it's just a board meeting and it's pretty dang simple. And then some of them, you get to the point where you turn up for the board meeting and in half an hour you're all done, and you're like, okay, well, they know what they're doing. It's growing at the rate it needs to grow, and maybe I just need to ask 1 or 2 questions that they hadn't thought of that I can see because of where I come from. But yeah, if you build the people, they build the business. I think, you know, I wrote a book called Billionaire in Training, and people ask me, what's the difference between a millionaire and a billionaire? And, you know, as still a billionaire in training, biggest difference is a millionaire wants to be the CEO. A billionaire wants to hire CEOs. You know, they want people to run the business. And once you've learned to do that business, you just do it as many times as you can, type thing. I use the example of Damon John, who's on Shark Tank over here, or used to be on Shark Tank. That guy learned how to create a clothing brand, right? And then he just went and did it time after time after time. Another $100 million clothing brand. Great. Go and build another $100 million clothing brand.
So you had a formula
It's
for
a formula, and you just go and use the same formula over and over again.
Excellent. So do you get approached to be involved in businesses, or do you search out businesses, and what's your criteria when you're looking at them? Because it's an interesting thing where you say, I imagine you don't want to give up too much time.
2 things from that. We have a venture capital fund that does most of that these days. And the greatest thing about being a teacher and in business and having ActionCOACH is that I've always got lots of businesses in front of me to look at, to invest in.
So it's a funnel of
But these days, I let the team do most of that. I'll get involved in some every now and again myself, but mostly it's the team. If I can see they'll go to a billion or multi-billions, I'll probably get involved myself.
So do you have key people you trust who bring opportunities to you?
Yeah, people who I've built, and they're partners in that operation. So most of the time they don't need to bring it to me. Most of the time they do it themselves.
Yeah. So what's your day-to-day like as a billionaire in training, as you were talking about? What is your day-to-day like, and your habits and routines? I'm sure there's a lot. Everyone wants to know what every successful person's routine is.
Well, see,
so do you have
my routine today is very, very different to what got me here. My routine these days is I work Tuesdays on board meetings. Wednesdays I create content. Thursdays, I do things to do with ActionCOACH, meetings with the key team members there from around the world. And that's about it from work-wise. I get up and take the kids to school every day because, you know, when you've got 5 kids, they're the priority sort of thing. And I didn't work that hard to build great companies so that someone else could have the good times with my kids.
Yeah.
That 10 minutes driving them to school every day is possibly the most fun, valuable time, or it's the most pain in the butt time of the entire day.
It depends on the moods and everything at that time.
Depends on how many yelling things well, you guys just get ready, for goodness sake, you know.
Yeah. So you have the same struggles as everyone does.
If the reason for wanting success is not to not do those things, you know, I built my business so that I could live the life I wanted to, not pay other people to take care of my kids. That's not raising kids.
Does it frustrate you that a lot of business owners don't seem to take that advice?
No, I don't get frustrated by other people's things. No, look, you know, I think to get frustrated by things you can't impact or affect just creates stress for you. So,
did it used to when you were business coaching at the coalface?
Only if they were clients who were paying me to care. You know, it
makes a lot of sense.
You can't care about everyone in the world, in if they don't want to get out of their own way. It's like I put more free training out on the internet, on YouTube.
I've seen a lot of it.
Yeah, like it's all there. And if someone can't get out of their own way I've interviewed over 100 very, very, very successful business people on my podcast. And if someone doesn't want to listen and learn, then I can't really help them and I can't get upset by it. No.
Yeah. So what does the future look like for now? So what's the crystal ball for, or what you're focusing your efforts on now for the immediate couple of years?
Oh, the next couple of years, 3 real things. Number one, I'm working on our AI platform, which will be me in an AI form. AI.
What, like a visual of you in an AI?
The voice will be me, but the interesting thing is someone can go in and if they type in German, then I reply to them in German.
Oh, nice.
All of my videos are now in all languages. There's a particular system we plug them into. I actually sound very sexy in French.
Oh, dear. I bet you with that American, Australian, French.
With my Australian, American, whatever the heck accent I have these days. Or lack of accent, but
we might put a clip of it in.
Yeah, it's kind of fun when you look at it from that perspective. But yeah, so the AI platform, we're building a platform that'll help business people run their business. It's very difficult to encapsulate all the data. A CEO of a company cannot read all the data anymore. There's just too much.
Yeah, there's so much.
And so the AI platform can do that.
To interpret, summarize it.
Just summarize it and give them actionable things that they need to work on. So that's one project that we're finding great success in. The next one is the venture capital fund. We'll be in a second raise of capital on that one. So, that'll keep me a little bit busy going and raising the capital for us to buy more companies. And then the third main thing, and this is just the business side, obviously, getting my son to hockey practice and my daughter to ice skating practice and making sure the kids keep playing their instruments and all of those things are just part of that. But and then the third thing from a business perspective is just scaling companies and making sure that we stay on track with growth. And my job the job of a CEO is really 4 things, okay? Saying no. If it takes you off track, you've got to be able to say no. And too many CEOs say yes to doing dumb, stupid things and it takes them off track from focusing on what makes money. Second is profitability. So you got to know your numbers. If you're the CEO, you must take care of the numbers, the money, the finances, all of those things. The third is your customer satisfaction, like Net Promoter Score or something on that. And the fourth is your employee engagement. So as the CEO, they're the things. Now, my job as the chairman is that stuff on long term. So my job as chairman is to be thinking 3, 5, 10 years in advance. Where do we need to position? How do we need to move? What do we need to do in order for this to be where it needs to be at that time? I want my CEOs thinking quarterly, monthly sort of thing, that time frame. I want my managers to be thinking weekly to monthly type thing, and my job's to think yearly and longer.
And with that in mind, it's something I missed. It was probably important that you raised there, AI. What are you seeing as far as that? Are you seeing it as a threat to business? Are people talking about it as a threat, or are they people using it as an enabler? Is there much fear with it? What are you seeing?
I think if you don't understand business, you'll think of things as threats. Mm-hmm. If you understand business, you'll see them all as opportunities. AI right now is brilliant for rote tasks, the tasks that human beings hate. If I could call a customer service line, and you can do this today, and the customer service line will answer the phone, you'll think it's a real human, it'll have a real voice, and the voice will probably be of a customer service person that worked in the organization. Well, that customer service person can know every detail about every single product or service that company has and answer every single question about anything in the thing with absolute perfection.
Yep.
So those sorts of tasks are very important. Analysis tasks that it can do. And people keep seeming to think that AI is very new. I mean, let's be blunt. The Google algorithm to help you search was always AI. Yes. I mean, it was always an intelligence that was an algorithmic intelligence. So I think it's just become more available today and more cost effective for people today. But all new things should be seen as opportunities, not as threats. If you keep seeing stuff as a threat, then it will be a threat because you'll run and hide from it. The old days of if it ain't broke, don't fix it is just wrong in business. In business, you got to keep trying new things. You got to keep going for it. Bill Gates famously once said, there's a kid in a garage somewhere trying to put Microsoft out of business. Yep. And you have to act like that there is someone coming for your business and you've got to keep innovating. 20 years ago, when the internet first started and we had dial-up internet and everyone was super happy to have dial-up internet, I explained to my kids, Dad had a numbered email address. And they're like, what do you mean a numbered email address? Well, when email addresses first started, you got your number. And that was your number email address, like a telephone number. And they're like, dang, dude.
Yeah,
but
so far,
my
but
kids,
it's not that long ago.
When I found a floppy disk, a 3.5 floppy disk, my kids are like, Dad, did you 3D print the Save logo? And I was like, something like that, kid, But, when we look at the growth of any business, and luckily I've been in business now 30-something years, I've seen 5 recessions, 10 different things that are going to kill every business in the world.
As they always do.
The internet's going to kill every business. No one's going to want to go to restaurants anymore with home. Look, everything is an amazing opportunity if you look at it that way. But don't wait until you have to make change. Lead the change. Disruption happens when you work out a way to sell things for less and still make more profit. Disruption happens when you innovate to such a degree that the rest of the industry is going, how the heck do they do that? How did they get that done? What did they do? That's where real business growth happens. And most of that happens at the coalface. Most of that happens with just listening to your people. I think a CEO who doesn't spend 20 to 30% of their time out with customers is just not doing a good enough job as CEO. They're not seeing the front. They're not seeing what's happening on the coalface. They're not listening to customer objections, problems, challenges. And if they're not solving customer problems, then they're falling behind.
Excellent. Great way to finish, I reckon, Brad. Thanks so much for joining us today, mate. It's very much appreciated. Very much a joy to have you on.
Welcome. Most welcome.
And that's it again for another great episode of the Franchise Everything podcast. If you like this sort of stuff, please share, like, subscribe, share it around, and we'll catch you in the next one soon.